Welcome. We're excited to bring you a new mini-series called Literacy Now Together, a special collaboration between FULCRUM and Parents for Reading Justice.
Reading matters. How we teach it matters even more. Without equitable learning opportunities, students get left behind, left without the ability to advance their skills and unlock their potential. It shouldn't be that way. IMSI exists to change that, and we won't rest until we do. With decades of experience rooted in the science of reading, IMSI has long been the educator's most trusted ally. We refine the best of structured literacy and Orton Gillingham to equip educators with the knowledge, tools, and support they need to make a difference in the classroom for every student at every age and every stage. Literacy success is possible through superior training, tools, and support. Learn it better, teach it better, until every person reads. IMSI.
Jackie Castillo-Blaber, a former bank compliance analyst and nonprofit leader, became a dedicated parent advocate after discovering both her children have special needs. Now a graduate student in special education, she fights for better curricula and interventions, serving as a leader in the Niagara Community Information Group and founding the Niagara Falls Special Education PTA. Lawrence Blaber Jr., her husband, a dedicated realtor and active member of several community organizations in Niagara Falls, New York, became a community activist for special education alongside his wife, Jackie. Driven by research, he fights to ensure children's futures aren't compromised by systemic failures in education. Kareem Weaver and I want to thank you both very much for being here today. So, could we start off by please tell us about your community and your family?
Babe, you want to go first or you want me? I mean, I said she can describe the family. I mean, our community is your typical small city community. We're a little bit north of Buffalo. We're one of the few, I'll say, true cities. Like, within a bigger city like Buffalo, you have suburbs and you have ones that are a bit more urban with a bit more of the urban sprawl. So that's us, blue collar, working class city. And we're, we, outside of having probably the seventh wonder of the world at our doorstep, we're pretty much like a lot of other small cities all across America.
And our family. That's my husband. We have two kids. We have an 8-year-old daughter named Genevieve. Um, she's in third grade. She's dyslexic, has dysgraphia, um, an amazing vocabulary, really bright, creative girl. And we have a 5-year-old. He's in pre-K. His name is Lawrence. He's high support needs, autistic, non-speaking, really lovable kid. But they both have IEPs and everything, and it's a lot to manage.
When you mentioned that Genevieve is dyslexic and she's in third grade, you say, right?
Mhm.
When did you find out? How did you find out that she was dyslexic? What was that like?
There were really, I mean, now it's clear, but there were obvious signs for anybody who gets a training in it, that she had dyslexia and dysgraphia. It's kindergarten. Um, she would be sent out of class a lot, unbeknownst to us, because she was seen as distracted, a distraction, unwilling to complete tasks because she just couldn't attend during like letter work. She couldn't identify or retain all of her letter sounds, the letter names, rhyming, things like that. So she would be sent down to talk to a social worker all the time, interrogated while playing with toys. And, it's just a very odd thing to happen, because she could have started getting an earlier intervention then. Um, and then in first grade, she, in RTI, she got flagged for tier 3 intervention, and she, based on her score on AIMSWIPE, they put her in reading recovery. They give it to the lowest performing kids. So she had 20 weeks of reading recovery, and she fell apart in that intervention immediately. And that's when it really became apparent to me that I needed to really research and find out what was wrong and really start doing my own child find, because no one was doing it.
Well, why did they pick that one? Why did they pick reading recovery? I'm sure there's other interventions that you know what I mean that schools do. Why did they
Yeah.
go there?
Um,
Well, they seem to pick it because this is reading recovery is deeply immersed in our school district. It's I can't understand the logic, but they went and bought the Cadillac package, as Jackie likes to say. They have like everything. All the curriculum director had to do was pick them. They're providing books, they're providing the training, they're providing the reading instructors, and
so
all that.
the source of that decision making. So in 2019, my district had a district comprehensive improvement plan. When you're a district that is ranked at the bottom of your county and you start chronically failing, certain subgroups of the population, you get flagged by the state, where if you're performing in the bottom 10% of your state. So my district was failing certain subgroups, Black students, I believe Hispanic students, students with disabilities, and they, in their district comprehensive improvement plan, decided to double down on reading recovery. We have through Ohio State University, we have a parent-teacher training site for reading recovery located in our BOCES. In New York, I just want to explain what BOCES are. It's a Board of Cooperative Education Services, and they have that for small districts, rural districts, to kind of consolidate and have a cooperative for access to like teacher training and things like that. So ours is Orleans Niagara BOCES, and it fully hosts a site from OSU, reading recovery teacher training site. So they have a business model in which they're going to sign up a certain amount of teachers. They're also going to embed themselves in your school in your school quality teams, curriculum decisions, um, teacher training, assessment time, sitting, for small groups for differentiation, deciding how to place kids and level them out and things like that. And so with that comes this ecosystem of curriculums and materials. And so you're going to get level text and things like that. So a lot of the interventions that my kid would get pushed into are balanced literacy. And because of where she ranked on her Ames web, very low amongst her peers, she's flagged as a candidate for this program that I don't know is a great fit.
It's fascinating, Brett. I mean, we've talked about this before. What the Blavers are describing is your daughter Genevieve was in basically crisis. We K1, 2, 3. That's the very vulnerable place, and that's what was being offered from the institution. Is I just you got to get that right. They can't for a student, if the student is really, they need the support, the institution has got to get that right. That intervention is like the safety net they need. I'm just curious, Brett. I know we're interviewing the Blavers, but is this something that what's the standard for an intervention and how they support kids and what you choose and what now? Because I'm hearing it's not the most unique scenario. Like there are districts around the country who do this.
No, and in fact, Fontes and Pinnell has been the most widely used curricula in the country. I'm in Ohio, and I'm in Columbus, Ohio, very close to the Ohio State University, where the Reading Recovery National or North American headquarters lies. And 10 years ago, we fought very hard to get reading recovery out of our district because it was not working for our children. We then worked in a statewide coalition to get it out of the state. And our governor is on board with banning 3Qing. So reading recovery is 3Qing. And the latest science is saying that 3Qing is not optimal for children, especially children with dyslexia. So it's interesting that the state that brought it to North America has gotten rid of it. And yet in New York and in this BOCES, as you say, this is still going on. To me, it's very surprising.
You know, Brett, when you say it's still 3Qing, they wouldn't say that. They would say, you know, maybe it's a feature, we do this sometimes, but that's not what we don't teach kids to get. Like, they have their perspective about it. So I'm wondering, Jackie and Lawrence, like, what was the pitch? How did the district pitch it to you? Like, this thing is going to do what? It's going to.
There's no pitch. They don't talk to you. They don't tell you. They send you a letter and say, your child's getting this intervention. I didn't know she was in a tier 2 intervention before that or anything like that. They don't tell you there's a problem. Like, do you know what I mean? Unless a behavioral thing happens, nobody tells you. So, but the thing is with reading recovery, there's no pitch. They just send you a letter saying, okay, we're going to be sending home daily level text for you to read with your child. It's very like, there's a lot of home carryover. So you want buy-in from the parent, but it's not like I had a choice. They send home an envelope and a composition notebook because she's going to receive a sentence. She's going to cut up the whole words, and then she's going to arrange the sentence by whole words before she can even read them and decode them. She's supposed to make sense of them and put them into a context. And then she's going to draw a picture of what she read in the level text. And what else? What else do they have you do? Oh, so I'm supposed to read it with her, again, with no instruction on best practices for doing that to make it meaningful. So if your kid starts falling apart, I mean, I can imagine some parents don't know how to deal with a kid that can't do something that for you as an adult is very innate and simple to do. I imagine it puts a lot of kids with a very frustrated parent who might be tired from the end of the day in a dangerous situation. But I mean, I have a background, like I'm in a teaching program for special ed. He has a brother who's high support needs autistic. I'm used to it. But I imagine either parents drop out or they're getting very frustrated and triggered by their kids' inability to read. But they never sell it to you. And for them to say there's no 3Qing, I witnessed it. I witnessed it when she was on a Zoom during a snow day, a couple of them. And I was in a behind the glass session in the BOCES with the teacher, the reading recovery teacher, and that teacher trainer. Like I witnessed it happening. In my experience, it is happening. And for us to try to do a rebrand like it isn't, it is definitely happening.
If I could touch on a couple of points that occurred to me as you guys were speaking. You mentioned Ohio State University. We in our county, we do not have a state school. We only have a compliance, but we have a private school in Niagara Falls, Niagara University, which I went to for my degrees, and I'm very sad to see that they're part of this situation. They were teaching the queuing method. They have since stopped, but the school district still was. So at some point, the school district and the university were working together.
They
But
still
they're-
are. They're in the shared decision making model. They sit on the board that is deciding to keep it. Like everybody knows they won't use it in their institution, but they'll allow it to continue here because the profit model for reading recovery, I'm like Columbo, I've looked into it. Like it survives. There's an article on their website. It survives through tough economic times, through maximum extraction of Title I funds. And we are a poor district. Every single school in our district is Title I. That's a sack of money for them. So
and I'm saying they show up as like, don't worry about writing that grant. We got a grant writer for you. We'll help you wrap that all up. Don't even worry about it. And the thing that I keep harping back on to that bothers me the most, and Jackie's heard me say, is they're literally willing to sacrifice these children and their future on the altar of adult convenience, and it just boggles my mind.
So you're talking about Title One. Title One. So you're talking about the most. That's really the most vulnerable population of kids, and then it's intervention. So it's the population that's most vulnerable, and the kids who need the most help. So it's like doubly sensitive. You got to get that right. And for those type of things to be in any way a motive or not attending to the evidence and whatnot, man, that's yeah, that's tough to swallow. That's tough to swallow.
And I knew it wasn't working within 5 to 6 weeks. My kid was showing emotional distress, academic anxiety. She was in first grade, so what? She was like 6, 7. Can you imagine, like a kid that young having anxiety at that level? Like not just like nervousness, like shaking at homework time, crying during art class, like things that aren't related to reading. Like the kids start falling apart. And when I called a parent teacher conference to say, this isn't how RTI works. If something's not working, it's our job to be reflective and switch it up and find something new. If it's not producing results, she didn't want to go to the library anymore. She didn't want to read the books at the end. We used to read books all the time at the end of the night. She loves like science books, like anything she could pick. She couldn't pick a book anymore. It was a level text. She doesn't recognize the patterns in the level text. You know what I mean? So every time she's reading a word, not being taught to decode, it's like cognitive overload, working memory overload. And it just sent her into a bad emotional state. And I said, enough, let's do something else. And I was told it's protocol for us to finish the 20 weeks. We finished the 20
the program has 20-week.
No, we're gonna, even though it's causing issues, I'm getting messages home from school. You know, Genevieve is falling apart. She's crying in the hallway. You know, like it's impacting her regular education. No one would stop it. They made her continue going. 20 weeks. It sounds like it's a little. That's months. That's months of. This is what I didn't tell you. It's like for anybody that's listening, it's 5 days a week, 30 minutes a day, one-on-one instruction. And when we talk about like how powerful the bond between a student and a tutor in that high impact, intensive type of intervention, it's extremely powerful. Now imagine if what they're teaching you is not evidence-based practice, it's not effective, it's actually harmful for you, and the way your brain is set up because you're dyslexic, it's like it's like extreme harm. It's extremely potent, harmful intervention. How do you trust? You feel like a failure all the time, every single day, sitting with that person, and they're getting frustrated with you because you forget the word right after you were taught it. I start getting messages. You know, I think it's intentional. I think she needs attention. Like she's looking for attention, and like, you know, talk to her about paying more attention. And like nobody's really looking at what's causing it. And it's like her working memory is it can't do all of this. Maybe we should step back and show her how to decode, but that is not part of the model. They do some work with magnets. It's not real structured and systematic work.
What we found most horrific was that they would shame and blame the child. So not only are they embarrassed and horrified that they can't read in front of their peers, but then they're told they're not trying hard enough, or they're wiggling, they're not paying attention, and they blame the parents. Were you blamed for not reading enough?
Well, I want to point out one thing that Jackie mentioned. One of the ways, I won't say they sell it, is to parents, you're being told your kid's underperforming. So we're going to put them in this reading program 5 days a week, 30 minutes a day with a reading helper. You're like, oh, that sounds great. Until you understand what it is and see your kid recede and that light start going out on them. And to answer your question, Brett, this whole school district, their explanation for all their struggles, mind you, we've been bottom in the read and test scores for third grade for 10 years straight for the county. 10 out of last place out of 10 schools for 10 years straight. And their excuse is always the poverty and the parenting.
That's a
And
very common excuse because they don't know what really is holding the child back is their instruction.
and the thing that bothers me and I've really is if you think about it, right? In Buffalo, they had a, a situation because they couldn't get enough people to pass the civil service exam to drive the buses, right? To become a supervisor, you need to take a reading test. You can start out entry level at Walmart or Arby's, but to become a manager, you need to take a reading test, even construction. So, how is somebody supposed to get out of poverty if they can't pass the test to get out of poverty? And then you talk about parenting, they can't even read a what to expect when you're expecting book. So, how are they to be better parents? You create this poverty and poor parenting, and then you blame them for it.
You know, I remember because I was in Buffalo not that long ago talking with Sam Rafford and also the folks at Western New York Alliance with Taria, and met some of the folks up there at the school district. And I'm just thinking, you know, Jackie, you said something that reminded me of that. You said nobody was really, there was no one to stop it. Nobody seemed to be in control to say, wait, hold on, time out, this is not working. Cut it. Let's at least let's investigate it and examine it. You guys, I'm sure, were not the only people raising the flag saying, hey, hold on, something's not right. But who is in charge of somebody has to be able to say, time out for this. It's not working for this baby. Like, who is that
The,
person?
the thing of it is that there are teachers that will tell certain parents, if you talk to the teachers, they're your neighbors, they'll tell you, don't put your kid in that. They won't put their own kids in. Like people who signed off on this thing on the plan, their kid didn't receive that because they were told, don't give that to your kid. But it was allowed to be given to my kid. And I just find that very sad. But who's the person in charge? Curriculum and instruction. Very tied to this. They got a really big award. Him and my superintendent got a really big award when they signed on for our entire school district on that plan. You know, they give Reading Recovery Council gives them a big award. Social media posts and things like that. So like, I don't know what the drawing is. I don't know if it's a connection with BOCES.
Wait, let me clarify that. You're saying that when your curriculum director selected Reading Recovery, he received an award?
When on that district improvement plan, you can go on Google. There's like news articles about it celebrating this award they received, and it's their picture and like it's like education excellence or something like that for making this commitment to their district. But to me, that seems like some sort of conflict of interest to give, even if it's not. I want to say there was a trip that was also included, but I may be wrong. But like just even the appearance of a reward or type of thing to me is a red flag. I used to work in banking compliance. I wouldn't be able to accept that type of thing. I wouldn't want it. You should be picking it because it's the best evidence-based policy.
Lawrence,
Yeah,
I'm wondering as a
it kind
dad,
of
as a father, man, you see all this happening to your child, and there's a whole system that's supposed to be serving her. All these people in these roles, they're supposed to be serving the child, right? And as a dad, man, I'm wondering, do you just have to go 5150 crazy and hard? Like, how, how do you approach that? I mean, I know what happened to me, but I'm just curious, you know, from your perspective, was the alarm bell ringing? Did you have like, I just don't know. Because I'm sure there's people all over the country, fathers who are wondering when I see this stuff going on, how loudly should the alarm bells be ringing, and what should I do? Because you go to the school, the experts, they're supposed to know what to do, and they're telling you, hey,
See,
this program is going to work. Do this. We're going to help your child. We're getting special help, right? But at some point, as a dad, I'm sure you had to raise the alarm and say, wait, hold on now. So how do you
well,
move in that situation when you realize it's not working?
a huge part of it is Jackie. She started this by she noticed it, and then she took that Georgia class, right, babe?
Oh, Cox Campus, the
Yes.
Georgia Department of Education. There was like a teacher checklist to screen kids for red flags of dyslexia, and she hit like everything. And I was like, and then it'll tell you, okay, now start the request for evaluation process. And then, I mean, I kind of know it because of her brother, right? He was in early intervention. So I'm like, okay, let me make sure I do everything right so I don't get denied and everything like that. And I'm like, okay, Lawrence, you're going to come with me. We're going to do this. And I, my husband is being modest because as a dad, what you're talking about, Kareem, he is the most involved dad. He cares so much about both their kids. He's at every board meeting talking about this. He's at community meetings saying, these kids aren't reading, we need to help them. Um, he's the one who got us the first meeting with our superintendent because he went there with all the stats. If I give him stats, he's going, he's saying it, he's speaking. And I just think you've done such a great job as a dad advocating. Like sometimes I think we're a really good team.
Let me also mention that having experienced something similar in our district, that it's really important. I want to compliment you both for staying together as a team because there's so much stress involved in just having a child with a special need. And then if you guys don't stay together, then I've actually seen divorces occur by staying on the same page, staying a united front, reading the same material, educating yourself. You are much stronger together. So thank you, Lawrence. It's rare to have a daddy involved.
Well, I was just saying, I teed up Lawrence because, Jackie was talking about she took classes. What was it, Cox Campus? And then Lawrence they was meeting with the superintendent. Most people don't have it like that. Most people, that's a lot to expect family to be able to do. So hats off to you all. But most folks don't have that level of advocacy and togetherness. So
I think that's why we're kind of going so hard, because me and my wife both have a great sense of justice, and that's what allows us to work better. Because we kept sitting here and going through it, and we're like, what if somebody isn't like us? Like, I don't want to brag, but between us, we've got a bunch of degrees. I've got experience in community leadership program training, being a community activist. So I am automatically said, what about the mom who can't afford to drive out to Williamsville for this tutoring? Like you're putting us under pressure, and we're, for lack of a better word, we're one of the better examples. Like you should want us. You, a, a family moves into your city, husband, wife, two kids. They get the house, they get the two cars. This is what you should want in your school district to promote. And rather than promote us, you're shutting us out. And we're asking you, why are you failing, and why are you comfortable with failing? And then that's we're a problem. And one of the things Sam said that really motivated us is this isn't about Viva, our daughter, that's a nickname. Because what we found out in our fight is these are about the friends in her classes who also struggle. We asked her how's everybody else doing. She was like, it's like nobody else knows what's going on. We find out there are 10 other kids in our class with IEPs this year. We've had parents come to us like, so my IEP minutes is like only 15 minutes. And we're like, you have more rights than that. It doesn't have to be 15 minutes. It could be as long as you want it to be. But people don't know that. So it's a bit of a burden, but it's a responsibility because we have the understanding and wherewithal to change it. And we know there are people in the community who want to change, but don't understand everything. So anybody's got to be on this front line forcing the change. It's got to be us.
We'll be right back.
FULCRUM's mission is to radically improve universal student reading outcomes by catalyzing the awareness, adoption, and effective implementation of evidence-based literacy instruction in school systems, educator prep programs, and policy nationwide. Literacy is the fulcrum of modern society. It provides access to information and promotes true empowerment, counterbalancing forces that limit access to rights, duties, and opportunities. Safeguarding the right to read is our collective responsibility. For more information, please go to fulcrumliteracy.org. Parents for Reading Justice is a nonprofit grassroots movement dedicated to ensuring every child learns to read by engaging parents and educators in adopting the science of reading. Please watch our award-winning film, Our Dyslexic Children, take our masterclass, and to ensure all our services remain free of charge, please consider making a donation today, all at parentsforreadingjustice.org.
Well, what we found too was that it does take a great deal of education of yourself. But then what you've done is so smart, because the district can pick you off individually. They can throw you a bone and give you Orton Gillingham and then say, don't say a word unless, or we'll take it away. But if you form a parent group and you band together to share the burden of this, going to the school board meetings, talking to the superintendent, sharing your knowledge, it is much, much more impactful. Didn't you start a group?
Well, we're part of 2 groups right now. Jackie went and started the special ed PTA. Through my connections, we started Niagara Community Information Group. Funny story, the lady who's our executive director, actually, we're shooting from the basement of our executive director right now. So shout out to Dr. Tina Gregory Schultz and her husband Ken for having us. And the other members of the Niagara Community Information Group are Michael Barksdale and Trent Hamilton. She actually met Jackie because they were both arguing with the school district one day. And she texts me like, I think I met your wife. We were yelling about stats because they were, I think it was the NAEP stats. And they were, and the city, and they were like, "Oh, you just gotta ask the teachers." We're like, "We've asked the teachers." So we came together on the same basis that this is not good enough, and that's what you find is when you start talking to the community and looking around, there are a lot of people who are upset. Not everybody's skilled in delivering it, but thankfully, we've been blessed with Dr. Tina and Michael Barksdale, Dr. Tina Gregory Schultz, and Michael Barksdale lead this group. And as a group, we've all brought very unique perspectives to drive it, and we're creating more energy in the community for this because people they know something is wrong, but they don't know how to voice it because don't understand the technical thing. But they can tell you, they'll be like, "Man, the school ain't teaching the kids right," and then you got to sit down with them and be like, explain that to me. What is that feeling and what's going on? And then from there, you can explain to them how reading has changed. Because a lot of parents don't realize reading has changed. So, like, that's where I take my professional sales aspect and learn how to box it and market it. Like, I basically tell people we have to go back to basics. They've taken sounding it out of the schools, and people automatically click like, "You mean they don't sound out the words like we used to?" And it's like, no. And it's a lot more complicated than that. But when you're getting people on board, it's a much easier sell once they understand that.
Or go ahead, Kareem.
No, I'm just, my head is spinning because, you organizing parents with PTA and special ed and taking classes and like, it's almost like the children who don't have that kind of support are being preyed upon. We're taking advantage of the most vulnerable in the name of helping them. So the alarm bell's not going to go off for most parents because they're saying that they're helping us. maybe something's wrong with my child. Maybe it's us. You know, I wonder if it would have made a difference if you all were white. I don't know. Maybe not. But you guys are like top of the food chain for advocacy and all that you've invested. I just, maybe not, I hope not, but man.
I honestly, I don't know, because what I've realized, like Brett said, is a huge part of it is the language here is compliance. Like it's if you want this, then don't do this. And the town has gotten so small that like everybody's related to somebody. I will say I don't think everybody's ready to fight. Everybody's like, let me get what I can get for my kid and just take it. Like my best friend was like, just take what they get for your kid. Well, you don't have to save everybody.
Because they convince you that you got something that you weren't entitled to. You were entitled to that.
You should be
They
grateful.
cannot take it away from you. It's not a gift. It's not a favor. And you don't have to like kiss a ring to get it. You are owed that because it's a Title I district. And this is where our funds come from. And people just are not aware of their rights, and they're afraid that, I mean, to a certain extent, things can be taken away. And then you have to have the money for an attorney, and that's not possible for them. But like,
Well, that's what they mean by when they say free and appropriate public
exactly.
education. You got a right to that.
That's why I thought it was so important to have this PTA. I love that it has this set up for special education specifically, because when I went into the actual parent groups, I don't mean to be offensive. I know they work hard, but the lived experience of being a parent of kids with on different ends of the spectrum of need, it's completely different, especially high support needs. Nobody's talking about the things that I'm focused on. Like I went in there and said, okay, when do we talk about curriculum? We don't talk about that here. You got to go to the district parent committee meeting. That's where they talk about that. I go there. We don't ever talk about it. And when I did talk about it, my lived experience is discounted. They tell me that the New York State report card, those state tests, NAEP, they're not indicators of anything. When I called the principal and I said, Genevieve Eamesweb, her NWEA was not great, it says to call the school and see what I can do as a parent, following the directions. They say, it doesn't really mean anything. Especially, she's a special ed student. She's in that gen ed class to experience it. And my heart sank because I said, no, she's there to access education. That's why I sent my daughter to school. So I'm like, this is a red flag. Like, they don't mean for her to have meaningful progress. They don't believe she can. And that's very scary. But to get back to what you said, Kareem, about would it make a difference if I was a white parent, if my husband was a white father? Yes, it would. Because I grew up in a white suburb in Hamburg, in the South Towns area. We were my father is Mexican. We were the only Hispanic family. There was only one Black family, one Asian family. So I know what it's like to be the only in a predominantly white institution. And when those parents, first of all, those parents, like the district they feel compelled, they feel to be accountable to them. I don't have that here. They don't feel compelled because whether they want to admit it or not, I don't think they believe that our kids can do better. And so like, as long as the lights are on and we have activities and some kids are succeeding, as a portion of the population will, despite the instruction, everything's fine. It's your fault. And they've said it so much. They say it in board meetings. They yell at my husband and tell us, it's the poverty and parenting. And this is a good school district. It was good enough for my kids. And if your kid is having a hard time, it's on you. It's because of you. And it's just, if I've said to the superintendent, if I was a parent in Clarence or Williamsville, a white parent, you'd be listening to me. You'd be accountable to me. And like, this is a problem. So I still do.
That's something that, I mean, even if it's not explicitly said, you feel it like underneath the radar. Because if the expectation was, all kids could learn. Then when a kid was struggling, like how your baby was struggling, alarm bells would be going off. But you look around like everybody's sitting in their desk, no alarm bells going off. What? This isn't a thing. This isn't a problem. But I think it gets back to what you were saying, Jackie, about expectations. And on top of that, even the white parents, sometimes they're so ashamed that their kid is not reading or doing whatever, they just go pay for private tutoring on the under. But they don't want to say anything because they don't want to look bad. But their kids are struggling too. So it's how do we get all of kids to get the support that they need? What were you gonna say, Lawrence?
No, that just reminded me. We have to drive our daughter for tutoring about 25 minutes out of Niagara Falls into the next county for 2 days a week, right? They want more, but it's a lot for us. But here's the funny thing. The place she goes is one of the richest school districts, and it's number one in the county in like Western New York. Their superintendent gets paid almost exactly the same as ours, which is wild considering the results. But you know what's over there? That's where all the Kumans and all those tutoring centers are. That's where
Man,
all of them are.
yeah. Talk about. Listen, you see them on almost every corner. A
Yeah,
tutoring program, Sylvan and Kumon and all this,
yeah,
and in those programs, man, they doing back to basics.
yeah.
They doing like people pay top dollar to do what the school district should be doing. It's nothing fancy. It's just giving kids what they need, step by step. Like what Genevieve need is not. It's not that the kids can't learn. They just need what they need. But if you have the money, like you all paying for private tutoring, then the data is hidden. It doesn't tell a full story because it looks like, oh, we're a district that's doing great and we're doing fine. Meanwhile, the parents are out there getting private tutoring and one-on-one help and whatever they need. Wow. I mean, Brett, you work with the parent group, Parents for Reading Justice. Is that a common dynamic that's out there?
Oh yes, it's very common. If parents have money, then and they don't, there's like a group think. You don't want to push against the district. You don't want to be different. You don't want to make waves. Then they just do go out of pocket for private tutoring, and that artificially inflates districts. But I would agree 100%. It has to do with expectations. I actually went into Ohio State and was talking to a political science professor, and I wanted to try to look at how the faculty looked at this issue as a whole. So I went in with a girlfriend. We took in the National Reading Panel. We were trying to let them know that for 25 years we've known what to do. He wouldn't even open it, and he said, you have to fix poverty before you can teach every child to read. And I said, how do you pull people out of poverty? It's through education, and reading is the basic building block. But it's a way to excuse their ignorance of the current science.
Our city has a crime rate 3 times what it should for a city its size. We have a really high teen pregnancy rate. And nobody's connecting the fact that you know and I know, whether you can read or not, the the trouble on the block will always find you. They got work for you. They'll find they
Right.
got work
Yeah,
for you.
that's right.
And 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 teen pregnancy, I mean, if young ladies can't read, they're gonna seek attention and self-esteem builders elsewhere. And teenage boys are gonna be teenage boys. And now you've got this whole bad mix of kids who can't read, but they're doing trouble getting money, and teenage
And
girls looking for attention.
the school might offer a social emotional program to help you with your self esteem. All this now realizing that your reading program is knifing the self esteem of the kids that you have.
Oh, they spent so much money on that. They spent all the money on the symptom of the cancer, but won't fix the cancer.
Bully your kid, and have double down on social emotional learning. The teachers are bullying your kid because they can't read, because the curriculum and intervention, it's like teaching your kid how to cope with the abuse that's happening in the school.
That's it. You know, that's a great analogy because I mean, we don't talk about it in those terms, but that's when the evidence is there of how kids can get help, right? We know it. They got science on it, research consensus, and all the rest. But you're not doing that because what you have other ideas that you, or maybe the fancy program, or somebody's tied to your district or something, or somebody got a contract or whatever. Man, in many ways, that is a form of abuse because it's unnecessary harm done to kids who are innocent and they can't fight back. They depending on the institution. They depend on us really to be the vanguard and protect them. But they're just open for whatever comes by, and that is that's for many parents that's a bridge too far.
One of the things that made an impression on me when we were talking on our pre-interview was, why is it really important for your family if Genevieve learns to read?
Genevieve, her brother is autistic. He's high support needs autistic. And I do everything I can to get him to independence. I'm trying. But the reality of it is she's going to be a caretaker. And I think every parent that has a kid with this high support needs, that might need support for independence when they grow up, you're very cognizant of the fact that someday you're going to die and they're going to be alone. And are there state programs that they're going to have access to that are in danger right now? Um, who's going to take care of my kid? Who's going to protect them? And that often falls on the sibling. And I just want to give her a chance. She needs to be able to read legal documents, medication bottles, things like that, banking documents for him. She needs to be proficient to protect herself, to protect him. I want her to be able to live the life she wants to live. I don't want her to struggle. It's extremely important.
It's a Sophie's choice that they give us. I mean, we want Genevieve to be a career professional who can afford the time to actually be involved in her brother's life and not just be struggling to get by and then feel her brother to be a burden. And what's really horrible about this is like Genevieve's classes, she needs tutoring 2 days a week. They wanted to give her more, but you have to understand, we're driving already. Jackie has to drive out to Williamsville in the morning to drop off Londy. That's our son's nickname, Londy, for school. Come back and pick him up at 1, get home, and then pick up Genevieve at 3 to take her to tutoring on Tuesdays and Thursdays. All right. That's a lot of driving back and forth. We've already been through one transmission. And because it's honestly a lot of it is just us, that means I have to end my work early on Tuesdays and Thursdays to be home to watch Londi. Now, he needs speech services. He literally needs it. He's close, but they were like, he needs outside speech services. It can be covered, but then now where are we going to find the time? Are we spending another 2 days taking him? So you're sitting there and you have to make this choice. I have to give it to her because she's the one who's going to be. She's got the brighter, better, best chance. And you have to sit there as a father, and it's hard, and it sounds a bit tough as a father, but I can accept. I accepted when my son was autistic that a lot of father-son moments I wouldn't get, but I just wanted him to speak and be able to talk to me, and I have to sit there and deal with this fight because it's not that they can't, they won't, they just won't. Sorry.
No, man, no. They won't. The district and the people in charge won't. Part of it, we wonder, is it because they don't know better? Is it just inconvenient? Is it because of the money? What? Why is this even a fight? They should be tripping over themselves to get her what she needs. For the life of me, I don't understand. You may have figured it out, but I don't. I really don't understand why it has to be all this. If the goal is to help her get what she needs, if everybody's on the same page, why does there have to even be a fight?
The goal is to move numbers and increase graduation rates. The goal is not to help the kids, because to help the kids, they've already committed money, and now they've got to retrain the teachers, and now everybody's got to put in this next level of effort, and they want the kids to show their grit and their fighting spirit, but the teachers don't want to. I'm not saying all of them, but like, as you know, when you do these changeovers, there's a significant portion of the leadership that are like, "Now we're not doing this. This is too much for us." So the kids will figure it out. But I want you to do this math and tell me how this math is mathing. Only 21% of the kids are reading in third grade, but our graduation rate is 80%.
You know, I'm glad that you mentioned this, because there was actually a legal case that was decided recently. It was William A. versus Clarksville County, Montgomery County, and it was upheld on appeal. Young man graduated 3.4 grade point average. He was a special ed. He had access to special ed services, but he could barely read, if at all. And he graduated. And the courts said, and this is landmark, what the court said was, it's not enough now for kids to just meet their goals, or to graduate, or to meet some benchmark. They have to actually make progress on these basic things that they need. And that's, I thought that always was the case, but apparently not. But it's what you said. They just kind of move them along. As long as they graduate, we good, as opposed to being able to take care of themselves and others. And for that, they have to make reasonable progress. The IEPs have to address fundamental skills, not just give accommodations. So people need to know that. And I'm glad that you brought this topic up, so we can actually bring it to light.
That's the Andrew F. Supreme Court decision, like 7 years old.
So you know all about
Yep.
it. See, the fact that y'all so plugged in, you've had to advocate all this. Man, most parents, they don't know this type of stuff. You like a legal dictionary. Like most people,
No,
they just.
I have paralegal certification from college.
Okay.
Maybe
You guys
this
are
is
like
what I
the
mean.
dream team. Yeah. Yeah. No, it's a tough one.
I mean, but in any ways, Genevieve and her brother, they hit the jackpot. Right? They have parents who are about that life. They're advocating. They knowledgeable. They go all this stuff. Man, they got two parents. A lot of kids nowadays, man, they don't win the lotto like that. You know, they just and it's whatever the school system gives them, they pretty much get, and that's it.
Well, and that's why we applaud. There are parents who get what they can for their kid, and then they go on about their business. But really, the two of you continuing to work for your children and for your community is incredibly admirable. And anything that I can do, I know we're getting to the end of our time, and I'm anything that I can do to support your family or your parent group, because I do think there's strength in numbers. And I think that's how you can make a significant change in your district. Also, hiring attorneys, but you can share that expense in a group. We found that to be very effective. So,
Well, let me ask them a question directly, because there are going to be parents from all over the country who hear this. What advice would you give? Let's say they have a first grader or second grader. They're not learning to read, and they're getting spun up. You know, here's your Fontes and Pinnell, here's your reading recovery, and it's not working. All right, whatever the district is talking about, it's not working, and they don't know what to do. What steps should they take? How should they start advocating for their child? I mean, I know hindsight is 2020, but if you could talk to any parents, what any advice that you have to give them, would love to hear it.
Don't give up. Keep asking, because that instinct, you need to listen to it. Look for districts that are doing it. You know, I was looking at Buffalo Public Schools, what they were doing. They actually had you, Kareem, speaking, and I went to see it, and I sent Lawrence to go see it. Just seeing what is it like in that other school district? What is engagement like? What are they doing? Why are they doing it differently? Um, Cox campus is free. There's so many free things that you can get if you're curious. Cox campus, Reading Rockets. For 50 bucks, I was able to get a micro credential in science of reading from SUNY New Paltz. I don't know if anybody wants to go that deep, but like I really try. I took parents as reading tutors pilot with Dyslexia Alliance for Black Children, who offers amazing programs and workshops for free to communities. Really amazing. They teach you about assessment. But I was able to work one-on-one with Risha Conroy and Katie Spurlock, the creator of Open Source Phonics. And it's an extremely affordable, open source, free phonics program. If you want to take a look at it, see what it's like, see the type of instruction your kid should be doing. I'm not saying you got to go do it, you know, but see what it should look like and then take a look what's coming home in your kid's backpack.
You know, I appreciate you, and I want to hear from Lawrence too. But just real quick, so Cox Campus, I believe that's coxcampus.org. They have resources for parents and teachers and others. And the Dyslexia Alliance for Black Children, you know, they actually signed on to our petition in Oakland to shift their reading practices. So, but Risha does a good job with them. So I'm glad that you lifted up those resources as well.
And
Lawrence,
we'll link to all of the resources in the show notes. We'll have a link for, yep.
Great. Lawrence, would you have any advice for parents?
On the most basic level, because not everybody's an intense researcher like my lovely wife. On the basic level, just start going online and trying to understand learning disabilities or what types and dyslexia. Start reading and finding out what your kid might have, and then start looking for organizations and nonprofits in the area. Like we have Dyslexia Alliance of Western New York and dyslexia specialists and those kinds of things. If you have a state university in your area, it might be, I know Ohio is a little difficult, but usually you can find some reading programs around there just so you can start figuring out, because the huge part of this is it's not the fight, because everybody can get angry about their kid and get the fight. It's understanding what your kid has, what they're diagnosed with, because 1 out of 5 kids may be dyslexic, but there are other learning disabilities out there that are hindering. And once you learn that, know that they can't say no. There's all this case law, there's everything. They might act like their hands are tied, but I 110% guarantee you, if you look around and you find the right nonprofit to help you, you'll find out that their hands aren't tied and they're lying, because all these fights we're fighting have been fought before somewhere. We just end up in this life because everything gets so hectic. We end up in silos and we think nobody's ever had this fight before. I assure you, somebody's had this fight before somewhere, and there's information out there for you to help with this fight.
The knowledge that your child can learn to read and your legal rights, that combination is critical. You've got both of them, exactly. So Kareem, anything else you'd like to say, and then we are going to close out today.
Yeah, I just want to say I have such a ton of respect for the both of you, and I admire you. You know, I have a daughter who's dyslexic, and niece, and I have a bunch of people in my family who's dyslexic. Man, you all did a better job than me. I tried my dangest, but you know, the fact that you caught it and that you were able to get her tested. Man, I didn't even get mine tested for a long time because they kept giving me the runaround, give her more time, give us this, give us that, and I'll let them spin me up. You know, but and I'm an educator, I'm a teacher, principal, all that stuff. But for you all as parents to just say, no, we're not going for the okey doke. you're going to have to give our baby what she needs. I have a ton of respect for you, man. I'm hoping with this interview that other parents can see that, you know, you have the legal backing of the federal government in terms of FAPE, free and appropriate public education. You have the backing of the civil rights community. Groups like the NAACP has a dyslexia resolution, national. You know, and you have more than anything else, you have the moral high ground. All it takes is the courage. But you know, one last question. I know we got to wrap, but I got to ask the question. You're a couple. I wonder what difference it makes to have two being able to fight this fight as opposed to just having one. You know, I know this may seem like a small deal, but you know, the different expertises you guys bring in, the backgrounds, the time, the driving all over the place. What if you were single? What the impact on Genevieve just for this issue?
I honestly don't think I would have discovered it if it was just me. And Jackie's a brilliant researcher and she's learning to talk in public, but I don't think the networking and the community growth would have also happened on her. I mean, I can't even imagine. For parents that are single, all I can say is use the internet and these Facebook groups to try and find some more support so you can uh, be able to get out there and speak or find ways to speak. But it's a heck of a fight as a couple. I can't imagine the extra challenges as a single parent.
Well, hats off to both of you.
Also, I
Go
just
ahead,
want to
Jen.
say, Kareem, I know you said like you didn't identify it right away, but I just want to tell you the tremendous impact both you and Brett had on us being able to do that. Because I wouldn't have known I could do any of this if I hadn't watched The Right to Read and I hadn't watched Our Dyslexic Children. I would have had no idea what to do, or it would have taken me exponentially longer. And I just want to say thank you so much for putting that resource out there for parents like us to take up and find those single parents and help usher their kids to get the help they need. I appreciate it.
You're gonna have us all crying up in here.
One thing
don't-
one thing I do want to add is when Jackie saw the signs and took the Cox campus and brought it up, and she was like, I think she might be dyslexic. I was like, when we started looking at what to do, I was talking with my cousin, like actual blood cousin. Her dad is my dad's brother. And she was like, oh, that actually tracks. Because my dad, your
Yeah.
uncle, is dyslexic.
Yeah, it runs in families.
Yes. And that's the only thing I would also say is ask. It's hard because maybe this is one of those things because my family's literally from Africa. I was born there. It's something we notice with African and Caribbean families. I don't know how all the time Black families. Nobody asks questions about people. How did grandma die? Oh, she is dead. Why are you? Just let her rest in peace.
Yeah.
So nobody knows history. If I would have known my uncle was dyslexic, I would have had my antennas up even earlier. So that's the only thing I'll say is also if your child has never learned disabilities, ask around in the family if other people have had history of trouble of learning to read.
Very good advice.
Yeah, it is. Great advice. Man, I wish we interviewed y'all a couple years ago. You know, but man, this is going to be helpful to some people. It really is. I can't thank y'all enough for sharing your stories, and Brett, you're doing a great job of having them come on, and because people need to hear real stories from real people about what's going on with kids and how to navigate these systems.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
God bless.
Literacy Now is a podcast designed specifically for parents in our effort to ensure every child learns to read. Parents deserve a seat at the table, and we bring their voices to the fore. We invite you to join the Parents for Reading Justice community on all of our socials, and make sure to visit our website to watch our documentary and to take our masterclass. All of our content is free of charge because every child deserves to learn to read. This episode was brought to you by parentsforreadingjustice.org, produced by Brett Tingley and Keita Mascaro.